I was talking over my concepts of the interplay between your inner and your outer reality, and how somehow it's this conversation. And I use that term very loosely. Let's not trap ourselves in the limits of language. You use all terms loosely as you can hold them, and yet still convey a concept. He asked me if I have this much control over my reality, like why don't people live forever? Why is my eyesight getting worse? And immediately to my mind came all these answers about how I would interpret that. And I'm going to walk through some of the ways I would interpret that, because it's probably not the way you would, but I want to invite you, right, to see your flaws differently and to understand the conversation that you might be having, even in the terms of failing eyesight or declining longevity. My eyesight or failing, it wouldn't probably be overnight, but maybe it would. Let's try both ways. Over a long lifetime, as I have aged and done many things and seen many things with these eyes, my eyesight starts to dim. I squint. Actually, this is true for me right now. My eyes don't focus very well on things that are close to me. I have to hold my phone far away from me, especially in the morning. I think it started with my sleep. I think I might have had this habit of sleeping with my eyes open. I think over time might have damaged my eyes to some degree. My eyes have gotten worse over the years, and I could tell every morning, probably over the last decade and a half, that my eyes are squintier and they hurt, and they take a little bit of time to wake up. And what's that telling me? Well, it's telling me I'm getting older, but that's the obvious, right? That's the obvious answer. And sometimes the obvious answer has a lot of truth in it. You know, we are supposed to acknowledge our age. We are supposed to be aware of our aging. I believe my interpretation is there's a lot to understand about the nature of aging, why it happens, and what it means. What is the reason to fight it? What would it mean to even have unlimited longevity? What would we be after a few hundred years, after a few thousand years? So somehow, carving up time becomes a way we can understand it. In the same way, I think we carve up our experience into words so we can share it. Wow. See, there was a lot for me to learn right there, and my eyes aging. And that isn't even the obvious things I thought of, which was like, well, maybe I'm not taking good care of my eyes, you know? Maybe I should go see an optometrist. Maybe I shouldn't spend so much time on the screen. There's some really obvious lessons, and all of them have a truth. But certainly, let's go the other route. Suddenly my eyesight dims. This could be pretty important. You have a sudden experience with a blindness. What could you possibly learn from that? I don't know, but I would really want to explore what in the world I'm supposed to learn from the other senses. What is it my eyesight has been preventing me from seeing? That would be my very first question. To approach it with curiosity. I'm not even sure that's a healthy way to approach it, so I'm not going to tell you that should be the way you approach it. But I think that's what I mean when I say that our reality is having a conversation with us. There's many lessons in every experience, even the ones we think are bad. It's not about controlling your reality. I don't think that's the idea. It's not about manifesting. I think aligning may be a pretty natural word. Again, I think it's something to do with our language and the way we understand things. How well do we really understand gravity? Look at how long it took us to even perceive the need to be able to measure it and define it and quantify it and describe it. And even now, can we really understand what it was, what it is, how two bodies are attracting each other? And doesn't that give us a lot of clues? It's not about trying to control reality. It's a conversation that we're having with it. It's helping us understand it. And every time we're applying limitations to what it means and to why it's happening and to whether it's good or whether it's bad, reduces it. It compresses the information. In the same way a computer might compress a file in the same way that language reduces your experience. Compression that happens when you define things as good and bad, when you define experiences as positive or negative. Each of those experiences that happen, no matter what the circumstances were, are your unique experience. Nobody else has that. And that's part of the entire unique abundance of your essence. See how difficult this language can be? Let's not call declining eyesight a bad experience. Let's not judge it. Certainly it comes with challenges, and I don't want to belittle the difficult experience people have had with it. What I hope that each of our unique vantage point will eventually allow us is many experiences where declining eyesight would never be considered misfortune. It's an experience you get to have, that it comes with no difficulties whatsoever, that the world rejoices in that experience and that viewpoint to share in the abundance of our collective diversity. So those are my thoughts on declining eyesight. I didn't really think about a lot of that before I started. There's a lot of this knowledge that's just open around you. Is that real? Is that my imagination? And does it matter truly what's real and what's imagination because something is difficult to describe, or because something is difficult to quantify, or because something is difficult to measure? Does not actually imply in any way, shape, or form that it's not real. Here's where my imagination takes off. Because what I wonder is where my brother's question started was this concept of control. So let me give an abundance of imagination towards it. There's knowledge, there's known, and there's unknown. And what we know kind of is what we've described. What we don't know is simply what we haven't yet described. But I have begun to wonder whether the act of description in and of itself, from a certain place of rational awareness, conscious presence, I wonder if it doesn't request accommodation from reality. And maybe these are in terms of big principles, but let's talk about it quickly in terms of little principles. I was really hoping for a little red convertible, and lo and behold, weirdly, a week after I started kind of thinking about that, my neighbor is selling one, and it's super cheap. That happens. You know it's happened. Something like that has happened for you. And it was a nice surprise, right? A nice little surprise. You got a little something you were kind of looking for, right? We call those little things like synchronicities, coincidences. And we have a lot of different ways we try to describe the little serendipitous connections. The fact that we keep trying to describe that phenomenon in and of itself calls us to try to become aware of something we can't quite describe, we can't quite perceive because it's not within our description. We know that a lot of our reality is constructed by ourselves. In fact, you could even, instead of dividing up knowledge by known and unknown, you could divide up knowledge by known, unknown, and created. We have entire systems of government that was just completely made up in our heads. That stuff was born out of our creative imagination, and we built entire realities around it. And each of those realities have little tiny realities within them. There's entire families, generations of government workers, and it's created this whole universe really of history, military actions, struggles for power. And it's all kind of just made up stuff that we made up. But eventually you could imagine, and you can actually see how those made up concepts evolve over years and years and years. and develop into whole new universes and realities of their own. We have entire AI networks of drones. I don't know what their experience is. We're all kind of interested in that. But all those things arose out of our own creative mind. And they are real. Reality accommodate that. Did we build it? Eventually it doesn't matter, right? Thousands of years in the future, when this entire solar system perhaps is colonized, mined, and unrecognizable, it's all evolved from these government states that we see today. And it becomes over eons what that evolves into. There's a whole science fiction universe, and we made it up. Well, who knows where it goes? So what if it goes backwards too? What if something as basic as, I don't know, laws of thermodynamics? I actually hate saying them out loud because they're repellent to me. They don't feel right. There's something wrong with the laws of thermodynamics. I'm not going to get into it. However, somehow, what if those things also come from a creative state, and maybe even ours? Maybe that stuff was kind of fuzzy until we described it. Maybe it didn't have to follow that rule until we described it that way. And then reality perhaps has been accommodating us this whole time. And that's why all of our laws seem so weird. All of our laws of reality seem so weird because we keep saying, okay, well, this is this way and this is this way, therefore. And we confine reality into these limits with our language. And it's completely erroneous because reality is a constantly changing, evolving, reactive, interactive substance all around us. But it's not something we're controlling, it's something we're learning from. I should probably go to the optometrist.